If you're watching this right now, there's a reason. Something within you guided you to this very moment, this exact video. And after you finish watching, you'll understand why this wasn't mere coincidence. Perhaps lately you've been feeling adrift, as if life has become a series of meaningless routines. Maybe you've experienced unexpected challenges that seem to have no purpose. Or perhaps you've simply felt a strange, unexplainable restlessness growing within you. What if I told you that these feelings aren't random? What if they're actually profound indicators that you're about to enter the most meaningful, authentic, and powerful chapter of your life? Throughout human history, philosophers and wisdom traditions have recognized that before any significant transformation, there are signs, subtle whispers from the universe that most people completely miss. The tragedy is that many interpret these signals as bad luck or meaningless struggles, causing them to give up right before their breakthrough moment arrives. But you're different. Your presence here shows you're paying attention. Today, I'm going to guide you through 7 profound signs that indicate you're on the verge of a remarkable personal transformation. If you recognize even 3 of these signs in your life right now, prepare yourself, because something extraordinary is already unfolding within you. Sign 1. You're beginning to question your fundamental assumptions about life. The first powerful sign of impending transformation is when you start questioning the very foundations of your existence. If you've recently found yourself contemplating the deeper aspects of your reality, your beliefs, your purpose, your direction in life, it's not random. It's because something profound has already begun shifting within you. This internal revolution may not be visible from the outside yet, but it's absolutely real. The mental frameworks and assumptions you've relied on for years are starting to dissolve, creating space for new understanding. And yes, this process can feel disorienting, even frightening at times. But this discomfort isn't something to avoid. It's sacred ground. The universe is inviting you to dismantle the illusions you've been living under. Questions like, who am I beyond my roles and achievements? Or, what truly matters to me? Aren't just idle wonderings. They're gateways to a more authentic existence. These questions aren't distractions. They're the beginning of your journey toward truth. As this questioning deepens, you may notice the world around you starting to feel somewhat alien. Things that once seemed absolute now appear relative. Certainties become mysteries. What you once knew with conviction now feels open to interpretation. This isn't you losing your grip on reality. It's reality revealing itself more fully to you. This disorientation serves a profound purpose. It's clearing away the debris of false identities so your authentic self can emerge. Think of it as a spiritual molting, the shedding of an outgrown self so a truer version can be born. The process may feel chaotic, but within this apparent disorder, something beautiful is being assembled. Remember this essential truth. Questioning is not a detour from your path. It is the path itself. You're not lost. You're finally beginning to see clearly. And while it can be frightening when familiar reference points disappear, that disappearance is precisely what makes room for something better to take their place. During this time, you may notice that your relationships are shifting as well. People who no longer resonate with your evolving energy may naturally drift away. Situations that once provided comfort might now feel stifling. This isn't a sign that something is wrong. It's evidence that your frequency is changing. Consider it an internal filtration system, allowing only what truly nourishes your soul to remain. This process requires letting go, releasing comfort zones, familiar pain patterns, and the illusion of certainty. These things may have once felt like integral parts of your identity, but they were merely temporary tools for a specific phase of your journey. They served their purpose, and now it's time to move beyond them. What awaits on the other side of this questioning? Nothing less than a more expanded, conscious version of yourself. You'll begin to sense it approaching, a peculiar mixture of apprehension and exhilaration. as if something monumental is gathering on your horizon. This feeling isn't imagination. It's your intuition speaking, signaling that your consciousness is expanding beyond previous limitations. As the internal barriers begin to dissolve, something beautiful starts to emerge. New possibilities, fresh purpose, renewed energy. It's like clearing overgrowth from a garden to make space for new life to flourish. During this phase, answers will come, but rarely in the form you expect. They might arrive through synchronistic events, chance encounters, or insights that seem to materialize from nowhere. These moments, appearing random on the surface, carry messages specifically meant for you at this precise moment in your evolution. Even without having all the answers yet, you'll sense deep within that you're moving in the right direction. The very act of questioning is transformation in motion, not weakness, but profound wisdom emerging as you stop pretending and start listening. Listening to yourself, to your deeper knowing, to the currents of life flowing through you. As you continue embracing this process, you'll notice your external reality beginning to reflect your inner shifts. This is the magic of alignment. Your circumstances change not because the world has fundamentally altered, but because you have. You've elevated your frequency. You've expanded your vision. You've reclaimed your creative power. So welcome these questions with open arms. Embrace uncertainty as the fertile soil it truly is. Allow yourself to experience the discomfort, knowing it signals growth. Every profound transformation begins this way, with confusion, with doubt, with a sense of dissolution. But what appears to be falling apart is actually falling into place. When you surrender to this process completely, you'll begin recognizing the signs the universe has been sending all along. They've always been there, patiently waiting for you to be ready to receive them. And now, at last, you are. Sign 2. Your past no longer feels like it belongs to you. The second powerful indicator that you're approaching a new chapter in life is a growing sense of detachment from your past. This transition doesn't happen suddenly. It's a gradual, often subtle shift that begins in your innermost being. Sometimes so quietly you barely notice it at first. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the activities, relationships, and ambitions that once energized and defined you begin losing their emotional charge. You might find that hobbies that once absorbed you for hours now feel flat. Conversations that used to engage you deeply now seem superficial. The routines that provided structure and meaning now feel mechanical and empty. It's as if you're viewing the same world through entirely different eyes. Eyes that no longer light up at familiar stimuli. A heart that no longer responds to the same emotional triggers. The people and places that once felt like extensions of yourself now seem distant, almost as if they belong to someone else's life story. What makes this experience so distinctive is that it's not simply boredom or a temporary mood. It's something far deeper. It's your soul gently but firmly nudging you forward, signaling that you've outgrown certain experiences, certain relationships, certain aspects of your identity. Your perception of life itself is evolving, and as that perception transforms, so do your values, your desires, your definitions of meaning and purpose. The things that once formed the foundation of your sense of self now feel like artifacts from a former life, echoes of a person you no longer are. This can be profoundly disorienting. You may not have clarity about your destination or what you're becoming, but you know with absolute certainty that you cannot return to who you were. You cannot continue pretending that your old life fits the person you're becoming. The alignment simply isn't there anymore. Previous routines, professional identities, social circles, even thought patterns that once guided your daily existence, all begin to unravel. And yes, this unraveling can feel deeply unsettling, even triggering a kind of grief. But this apparent loss is actually one of the most reliable indicators of imminent transformation. It's your inner being creating space, shedding outgrown layers so something more aligned with your authentic essence can emerge. Releasing what once felt essential is never simple. There's a natural mourning process when you let go of aspects of identity that seemed permanent. But this growing disconnection from your past isn't punishment. It's preparation. It's making room for what's next, like a field being cleared before planting. What's coming may not be visible yet, but it's developing beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to emerge. This gradual dissolution of attachment to your past is a sacred signal, one indicating that even if you don't fully understand it yet, something new is preparing to enter your life. This isn't about abandoning everything familiar. It's about loosening your grip on elements that have fulfilled their purpose in your story. It's about releasing attachments that no longer support your growth. You're entering a phase where you're being called to let go, to release the roles you've played, the patterns you've repeated, and the masks you've worn. You're being invited to step into a life that reflects who you're becoming, not who you once were. This transformation rarely follows logical patterns. It may feel uncertain, as if the ground beneath you is constantly shifting. But within that uncertainty lies tremendous potential, expansion, renewal, and the opportunity to discover yourself in ways you never imagined possible. The feeling of disconnection from your past is just the beginning. Beneath it flows a cascade of internal changes. Your beliefs are evolving, especially those limiting ones you never thought to question. The version of yourself that accepted certain truths without examination, that lived according to external expectations, that followed predetermined paths, that self is fading. You're questioning assumptions you once took for granted. You're looking inward more frequently, discovering that the external world no longer holds all the answers. Your old structural supports are dissolving, not in a way that destroys you, but in a way that liberates you. You might struggle to define who you are in this transitional space, but one thing remains clear. You're not the same person anymore. You're evolving beyond previous limitations. Within you grows a powerful desire for rebirth, to step into a version of yourself that is more authentic, more aligned, more fully expressed. You may not yet have a clear image of what that version looks like, but you can feel it calling to you from just beyond the horizon of your current awareness. As this sense of detachment deepens, fear may arise. Fear of releasing the familiar. Fear of losing what once seemed essential. Fear of stepping into unknown territory. But accompanying that fear comes a profound sense of liberation. There is freedom in no longer needing to be who you used to be. There is power in releasing what no longer supports your highest evolution. The emptiness you may feel isn't emptiness at all. It's potential in its purest form. It's the womb of new beginnings, the signal that something far more aligned with your soul's purpose is preparing to emerge. This transition may be uncomfortable, growth often is, but that discomfort is the gateway to clarity. With time, that clarity arrives. You stop seeking external guidance. You stop relying on others to define your path. Instead, you turn inward, trusting your inner wisdom, your intuition, your heart's intelligence. The cacophony of external voices begins to fade, and in its place rises a steady, quiet voice within. Your authentic guidance system, your personal truth. You release your attachment to the past. You stop trying to resurrect what has naturally completed its cycle. Instead, you open yourself to possibility, allowing yourself to grow into someone new, someone more genuinely aligned with your essence. Each day brings you closer to a more truthful expression of who you really are, not the version shaped by fear or obligation or expectation, but the version that has always been waiting beneath the surface. So if you find yourself drifting away from who you once were, if your former life no longer resonates, if the people, habits, and dreams that once seemed essential now feel like distant memories, recognize this truth. Your soul is guiding you towards something greater. It's leading you to a new beginning, a fresh chapter. This disconnection isn't an ending. It's the sacred beginning of the transformation you were destined to experience. Your true journey is just beginning. Sign 3. Your values are undergoing a profound shift. Have you noticed lately that what once seemed crucially important now carries much less significance? It's as if someone has adjusted the contrast on your perception, bringing certain values into sharp focus while others fade into the background. This shifting of priorities isn't random. It's a powerful sign that you're entering a transformative phase of your life. Things that once dominated your attention and energy, career advancement, material acquisition, social status, others' approval, begin losing their grip on you. They don't disappear completely, but they no longer occupy the center of your value system. Instead, you find yourself drawn toward more essential questions. What brings genuine fulfillment? What constitutes a life well lived? What will matter when you look back years from now? It's as if an internal filter has been removed, allowing you to see beyond cultural conditioning and societal expectations into the heart of what truly matters to you as an individual. You begin to recognize that many of your former priorities weren't actually yours. They were absorbed from family, education, media, and cultural messaging. And now, something within you is recalibrating, aligning your external choices with your internal truth. This values shift isn't always comfortable. It can generate uncertainty, even moments of existential questioning as you navigate between old and emerging priorities. But this very space of not knowing becomes fertile ground for authentic growth, a place where new understanding can take root, where answers emerge not from external authority, but from your own deepening wisdom. Life begins revealing to you that lasting fulfillment rarely comes from accumulation or achievement alone, but from experiences that nourish your essence and connections that honor your spirit. Material success doesn't disappear from your value system, but it finds its appropriate place within a much larger spectrum of what constitutes a meaningful life. This reorientation of values often triggers a complete reassessment of purpose. Why are you here? What unique contribution are you meant to make? What experiences do you truly want before your time here concludes? The answers don't necessarily arrive immediately, but what becomes undeniable is that you're opening to new possibilities, new definitions of success, new measures of a life well lived. What once seemed non-negotiable starts losing its hold, making space for emerging interests, fresh passions, and a deeper longing to connect with what fundamentally matters. This is clear evidence that you're preparing for a significant transformation, the universe guiding you toward what truly fulfills you, toward your authentic path. And while this process may initially feel disorienting, it's actually your entrance into a more conscious existence, one aligned with your essential nature. This shift typically unfolds gradually, but once it begins, it becomes impossible to ignore. Security-providing structures and achievements that once defined success now feel surprisingly empty. The need to follow conventional definitions of accomplishment diminishes as a new energy takes hold, pulling you toward a more authentic life, less influenced by external expectations. This evolution isn't merely about rejecting old values. It's about creating space for new ones to flourish. Interests and passions you may have set aside as impractical or unimportant suddenly reclaim your attention. You might rediscover childhood enthusiasms or explore entirely new territories you'd never considered. The desire to conform to established systems weakens as you seek a path that genuinely reflects your emerging values, one only you can define. This questioning period may temporarily create distance between you and those accustomed to your former priorities. A natural separation often occurs as you distance yourself from external expectations to discover your internal truth. But this transitional loneliness serves an important purpose, creating space where self-awareness can develop. Eventually, you'll attract people who resonate with your evolving worldview, who honor your authentic priorities. What you're experiencing is essentially a reset. What no longer serves your growth naturally fades, as renewed energy connects you with what genuinely matters. This values recalibration isn't a crisis. It's an awakening preparing you for something deeper and more aligned with your true purpose. Though the journey toward that discovery contains uncertainty, it's precisely what you need to become the most authentic version of yourself. Sign 4. Your intuition is awakening in unprecedented ways. A fascinating phenomenon emerges when you're approaching a major life transition. Your intuitive capacity expands dramatically. It's as if a dormant sensory system suddenly activates within you, bringing a new kind of clarity. Life begins revealing deeper patterns and meanings, and choices that once required extensive analysis now come with a natural sense of knowing. Intuition is that inner guidance system, that gut feeling, that heart wisdom, that knowing without logical explanation. It's the sense that something aligns with your authentic path even when you can't articulate why. As this faculty awakens more fully, decision-making transforms because you're operating from a deeper intelligence, one connected to who you truly are, beyond socialized thinking. This intuitive awakening rarely happens suddenly. It usually begins with subtle cues, an inexplicable hunch that proves accurate, a feeling of peace amidst uncertainty, a quiet knowing about which direction to take. Initially, these signals might be easy to miss, especially amid the noise of daily life and logical analysis. But as you create space to listen, this inner guidance grows increasingly clear and reliable. Intuition manifests in various forms, sometimes as physical sensations, butterflies, warmth, tightness, sometimes as spontaneous thoughts that seem to arrive from nowhere, sometimes as an unexplainable certainty about a person or situation. As you attune to these signals, you'll notice your decision-making becoming less purely rational and more integrated with this deeper knowing. The beauty of this awakening is that it brings a profound sense of alignment. Events that once appeared random begin revealing their hidden connections, as if invisible threads are weaving seemingly unrelated experiences into a meaningful tapestry. Life flows more naturally because you sense, beyond logical understanding, that you're exactly where you need to be, doing precisely what you're meant to do. This heightened intuition also sharpens your perceptiveness. You begin noticing subtleties that once escaped your awareness, the unspoken dynamics in conversations, the energy beneath surface appearances, the truth behind carefully constructed facades. You develop the capacity to discern what's genuine from what's performative, what matters deeply from what merely distracts. Perhaps most significantly, as you honor this intuitive intelligence, a profound sense of security emerges, not because external circumstances have changed, but because you're connected to something deeper than circumstantial stability. Even facing uncertainty, the feeling of alignment with your authentic path creates an inner foundation that external events cannot easily shake. Fear and doubt gradually lose their power, because your choices no longer stem primarily from avoidance or self-protection, but from this deeper understanding of yourself and your place in the greater pattern. This marks the beginning of genuine self-trust and empowerment. As you continue listening to your intuition, each choice brings you closer to your essential nature. Life begins flowing with unexpected grace, not because you've mastered control, but because you've aligned with something larger than personal will, the natural rhythm of your authentic being. Sign 5. You're experiencing an unprecedented hunger for growth. As this transformative chapter unfolds, you notice your consciousness expanding in ways you couldn't have previously imagined. You're no longer satisfied with familiar patterns of thinking, behaving, or perceiving. A profound desire for evolution rises from within, not just to exist, but to evolve, to transcend limitations, to actualize more of your potential. This inner drive for growth begins permeating every aspect of your life. You find yourself consistently seeking new knowledge through books, courses, meaningful conversations, diverse experiences. It's as if an insatiable hunger has awakened within you to learn more, to understand more deeply, to become a more authentic and integrated version of yourself. This thirst for development leads you to explore previously unexamined aspects of your being, from latent talents to psychological limitations. There's a growing sense of urgency, a recognition that life is precious, and there's no time to waste in becoming who you're truly meant to be. This isn't merely intellectual curiosity, it's a soul-level longing for wholeness, for alignment with your deepest values and purpose. This developmental impulse connects you to a transformative energy, a sense that with commitment to growth, anything becomes possible. You find yourself increasingly willing to release limiting beliefs and embrace expansive perspectives that propel you forward. Personal evolution isn't merely a preference. It's becoming an inner necessity that influences every domain of your existence. What once seemed like a clearly defined life path now opens to new possibilities as you recognize the need for fresh directions, paradigms, and approaches. Growth isn't just an option, it's a priority, a driving force guiding you toward experiences that will reshape not just your external circumstances, but your fundamental sense of self. You begin asking increasingly profound questions. Who am I beyond socialized identities? What is my unique contribution? What am I here to learn and express? These inquiries aren't random. They signal your readiness to expand beyond familiar limitations into a higher level of awareness where ordinary existence becomes infused with extraordinary meaning. This growth imperative isn't purely intellectual. It encompasses emotional and spiritual dimensions as well. You find yourself confronting old wounds, examining conditioned patterns, and releasing mental frameworks that no longer serve your evolution. You recognize that creating space for the new requires releasing what's complete, however challenging that process might be. Your priorities naturally reorganize around what genuinely matters: growth, authenticity, meaningful connection, contribution. These values begin outweighing the superficial concerns that once dominated your attention. You're prepared to move beyond comfortable routines to create meaningful changes aligned with your deepest aspirations. You might find yourself naturally gravitating toward others who share this evolutionary impulse. Those who challenge your thinking, introduce you to new perspectives, and support your expansion. The need for external validation diminishes as your focus shifts toward creating a life that genuinely reflects your most authentic self. Sign 6. You feel a powerful urge to release what no longer serves you. At this transformative juncture, you're becoming acutely aware of relationships, circumstances, and patterns that once felt natural but now seem discordant with your evolving self. What you previously tolerated, rationalized, or even embraced now feels energetically depleting or fundamentally misaligned with who you're becoming. This isn't merely outgrowing certain dynamics, it's evolving beyond entire frameworks of relating. What once provided comfort now feels constraining. What seemed normal now appears problematic. Your transformation is making it impossible to ignore what's been limiting your expansion. It's like awakening from a dream and recognizing that some connections and patterns weren't supporting your flourishing. They were merely maintaining familiar equilibrium. Something has fundamentally shifted within you, bringing unprecedented clarity about what deserves your energy and what needs to be released. The urge to distance yourself from depleting dynamics isn't about rejection or judgment. It's about honoring your authentic needs with compassion. It's not selfish to choose vibrant energy over depletion, clarity over confusion, peace over unnecessary struggle. It's self-respect in its purest form. You're beginning to understand that becoming your most authentic self requires stepping away from what dims your light or constrains your growth. You cannot manifest a future aligned with your essence while remaining tethered to patterns that reflect old, outgrown versions of yourself. What's occurring is a profound act of self-liberation, recognizing that you deserve relationships that uplift rather than deplete, challenge rather than limit, see you clearly rather than project expectations. You're not seeking perfection but authenticity. Genuine connection based on mutual respect, shared values, and emotional integrity. While releasing attachments can be painful, endings always involve a form of grief. It's also deeply empowering, a declaration that your well-being matters, that your peace deserves protection, that your time and energy are precious resources not to be squandered. You've realized that comfort with the familiar isn't worth sacrificing your evolution. As you release what's complete, something remarkable occurs. You begin attracting circumstances and connections that genuinely resonate with your authentic frequency. New relationships emerge that feel expansive rather than constraining, energizing rather than depleting. You find yourself supported by those who appreciate your authentic expression, rather than requiring your conformity. Gradually, you rebuild a life filled with genuine connections that truly nourish your spirit. Relationships characterized by mutual growth, authentic communication, and shared values. You stop accepting half measures in any area of life and begin welcoming experiences that honor your wholeness. This willingness to release what's complete represents a profound sign that you're preparing for an extraordinary new chapter, one where you're more aligned with your essence, where peace is prioritized, where your heart is honored, and where your spirit is free to express without limitation. Sign 7. You're experiencing a powerful shift in consciousness. The final and perhaps most significant sign of impending transformation is a fundamental shift in how you experience yourself and reality. What once defined your sense of identity, roles, achievements, relationships, beliefs, begins feeling less absolute, more fluid. It's as if something deeper than your socialized self is emerging into awareness. This consciousness shift manifests as a growing sense of witnessing your experience rather than being completely identified with it. Thoughts, emotions, and sensations continue arising, but you're increasingly aware of the aware presence behind these phenomena. The consciousness that experiences rather than the experiences themselves. This perceptual shift creates a subtle but profound sense of spaciousness. Challenges that once seemed overwhelming now appear within a larger context. Emotions that used to consume you now move through a more expansive field of awareness. You're developing the capacity to be with experience without being completely defined by it. What's occurring isn't detachment in the sense of disconnection, but rather a liberation from exclusive identification with limited aspects of yourself. You're not becoming less engaged with life. You're engaging from a more fundamental dimension of your being, one less constrained by conditioning and reactivity. This awakening consciousness brings a natural reordering of priorities. What once seemed critically important, others' opinions, status markers, material accumulation, begins occupying its appropriate place within a much larger context of meaning. You become less driven by fear, more moved by authenticity, less concerned with appearance, more devoted to essence. Time itself begins feeling different, less linear, more fluid. You find yourself naturally more present, less consumed by regrets about the past or anxieties about the future. There's a growing recognition that this moment, the only one ever actually experienced, contains its own inherent completeness. This consciousness shift doesn't mean transcending humanity, but rather experiencing it more fully, more authentically. Paradoxically, as you become less identified with the separate self-concept, you become more available to genuine connection, more capable of empathy, more present with others without agenda or pretense. Spiritual teachings and wisdom traditions that once seemed abstract or theoretical suddenly make experiential sense. You're not just intellectually understanding concepts of presence, interconnection, or non-attachment. You're directly experiencing their reality in everyday moments. This awakening isn't about escaping ordinary life, but transfiguring it, revealing the extraordinary within the seemingly ordinary. Simple experiences, a sunset, a conversation, a cup of tea, take on unexpected depth and meaning not because they've changed, but because your perception has expanded. This emerging consciousness represents the most profound sign that you're entering not just a new chapter, but a new dimension of being, one characterized by greater presence, authenticity, wisdom, and compassion. Everything external may appear unchanged, but everything is experienced through new eyes, from a more expansive perspective. What happens when you embrace these signs? When you recognize and honor these 7 signs rather than resisting them, something remarkable occurs. Instead of experiencing transformation as chaotic or threatening, you begin participating consciously in your own evolution. Rather than clinging to outdated versions of yourself and your life, you become an active collaborator in your becoming. As you release attachment to who you thought you were, space opens for who you're truly meant to be. As you let go of external definitions of success, you discover more authentic measures of a life well lived. As you surrender the need to control outcomes, you gain access to a deeper form of security. Trust in your capacity to meet life as it unfolds. This isn't just personal development, it's consciousness evolution. You're not merely improving an existing framework, but stepping into an entirely new paradigm of being. The transformation occurring isn't just about changing circumstances, but about fundamentally shifting how you experience reality itself. When you fully embrace this process, synchronicities increase. The right opportunities, teachers, and resources appear with uncanny timing. What once required enormous effort now unfolds with surprising ease. Not because life has become simpler, but because you're aligned with a deeper intelligence, moving with life's flow rather than struggling against it. You discover within yourself resources you never knew existed. Resilience, creativity, wisdom, and compassion that surprise even you. Challenges remain part of your journey, but your relationship to them transforms completely. They become opportunities for growth rather than obstacles to happiness. Perhaps most significantly, as your perception shifts, your experience of time transforms. You spend less energy regretting the past or worrying about the future. Instead, you discover the infinity available within each moment, the only place life is ever actually lived. You're not alone on this journey. Throughout human history, countless others have walked this path of awakening, leaving signposts and guidance for those ready to follow. The wisdom traditions of the world, beneath their diverse expressions, all point toward this same transformation of consciousness. From limitation to expansion, from separation to connection, from fear to love. If what you've heard resonates, if you recognize these signs in your own experience, trust the process unfolding within you. The uncertainty, the questioning, the letting go. These aren't signs that something is wrong. They're evidence that something is profoundly right. You're not falling apart. You're falling into place. This journey isn't always easy, but it is infinitely worthwhile. It's the journey from living someone else's definition of your life to discovering and expressing your authentic nature. It's the transformation from unconscious conditioning to conscious choice, from limited identity to expanded awareness. The path continues unfolding, offering ever-deepening revelations and possibilities. Stay curious. Stay open. The extraordinary chapter awaiting you isn't just about different circumstances. It's about experiencing life from an entirely new level of consciousness, and that makes all the difference. Your transformation has already begun. The very recognition of these signs is itself evidence that you're awakening. Trust what's unfolding within you. Honor the wisdom of your journey. The universe hasn't brought you this far to abandon you now. You're exactly where you need to be, becoming exactly who you're meant to be. And that process, with all its uncertainty and challenge, is itself the greatest gift. We'll meet again soon to continue exploring these depths together. Until then, remember, you're not just changing your life, you're transforming consciousness itself. And in doing so, you contribute to the evolution of our shared world in ways beyond measure.